what is this gonna teach me?
No,
I heard him say it in the background.
Yeah,
right?
That's what you mean. That thing.
Right. So you could either, get upset, walk out, saying I'm not gonna do this, or you could do your job, and handle it afterwards, right? And that's what I did, because I wasn't. It wasn't the first time I've heard the word from someone that didn't look like me. Right. So especially when you move to Grand Prairie, you have quite a bit of it. You heard quite a bit of it all the time. And so it kind of prepared me to deal with the things I've seen in corporate America.
Welcome to Black Aristocrat, where kings and queens beam and get seen. Welcome to Black Aristocrat. Today on the show, we are going to take a tour down a wonderful, wonderful road to early retirement with one of the best men that I know, an excellent husband, an excellent father, provider, and one of the biggest givers that I know. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you feel comfortable because we're just going to talk like from the beginning to the end. We're going to talk about where you're from. You're actually from the Metroplex, right?
Yeah, we grew up kind of all over Dallas, and then eventually, about my fourth grade year, we moved to Grand Prairie, and that's where I was at until I graduated from high school.
Oh, so born in Texas?
Born in Texas, born in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were pretty much raised in a urban area for the most of my young adult life, and then we moved into Grand Prairie, which was more of a predominantly white area. So it was a big change.
What age was that?
About fourth grade. So that was about, 9, 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah. About fourth grade.
I don't know what age is fourth grade.
No, it's okay. I don't remember what age is fourth grade.
Is it
8, 9? Fourth grade is 8, 9.
Yeah. 8, 9. Okay.
So, just in case you want to. So what do you, so my parents did the same thing to us. Right. We went from the inner city of where were we? But whatever it was, my mom, I don't know if I should tell this, but my mom kind of got us into some different schools, and we ended up transitioning from saying more of an urban to just like a suburban environment. And it was definitely, it was a change for us. But actually, she did that. She had us in those environments. No, we got transferred back to. We got kicked out once they found out our address wasn't right, and we had to go back to the urban environment.
Right.
Oh, so that's where my transition went. It went downhill. No. So for you, it went from an
urban area to a predominantly white area. And, that paradigm shift probably was the best thing for me. Because, when you grow up in an urban area, most of the time, especially back then, no one had anything, right? So you didn't have anything, your friends didn't have anything, and it was all fine.
Yeah.
But then they took us and moved us into more of a predominantly white area where they had, and it wasn't like the high influential people, but it was still people that had more than we had. So it became one of those things that I want to always hang out with these people because they have, for instance, they had Twinkies, they had chocolate milk, things that we didn't have. We were poor. We grew up poor. So when we moved to that area, people had things that you didn't. So you spent time more with them. And then you kind of learn the culture, which is the most important thing, is understanding different cultures, because I believe that's what truly helped me be successful in corporate America and to today. Several of my friends that went to Prairie View A&M after high school, and it was several of my colleagues that grew up only in a urban area.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't grow up around white people.
Mm-hmm.
So they really didn't understand white people. So when they went to corporate America,
Mm-hmm.
they pretty much had thin skin.
Mm-hmm.
And in corporate America, you can't have thin skin and be really successful. That's my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so guys that went in that I knew, or ladies that went in that I knew, certain things may have been said and
they didn't
last long. They didn't make it long.
So for me, it was the jelly beans, those little tiny little jelly beans that come in all the different flavors. My friends used to have the jelly beans at their house, and I just used to love to go over there because I love the jelly beans.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to take you. I love that you shared that information about the transition and how that helped you transition or have a thicker skin in corporate America. But I'm going to dial you back because I want to take us through this journey,
right.
Your journey to corporate America.
Right.
So I want to talk about what that was like. Now, what kind of household was this? Was this a two-parent household, or?
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you the good, bad, and ugly.
Okay,
right?
that's what I need. I need the authenticity.
So,
we can edit anything.
Okay. So I have an older brother and a younger sister, and who I grew up with.
Yes.
My parents kind of raised my brother and I to kind of be self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
They both worked, and my mom worked, multiple jobs. My dad worked at the post office.
Mm-hmm. They were married when they had you?
Married when they had me. My dad was a Vietnam vet.
Okay.
I consider him a product of Vietnam, and we can talk about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But so they were not really at the house. So, we were taught how to iron, feed ourselves and so forth, take care of our, clean, take care of our hygiene, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of raised ourselves. But
we did too.
But growing up with, your parents working so much and not around, me and my brother were both molested at around the age of 5 and 6 by someone in apartment complex where we lived, because we moved quite a bit when we were young.
Whoa.
To multiple apartment complexes, and we didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
We never said anything until we were probably in our 40s.
Wow.
About that.
You
to
held
our parents.
that long?
Yeah. Sometimes you bury things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You bury things, and you put them out of your mind.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I can't believe that. So you, this person, did you have to see this person after?
Not really.
Not really?
Not
It just
really.
was like something.
And we were so little,
You didn't really understand what was.
Didn't understand,
Mm-hmm.
but it was, it was something that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it has affected me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Did
pretty.
you do counseling or anything about it, or no because you just kept it and suppressed it as
exactly.
like something that was wrong?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways that could play out, but it didn't happen to play out for you in any kind of, not that I know of.
No. It hasn't. That I can tell that. Even in relationships, I don't think it has.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing was that we always saw our parents work. That's something we always saw. But when I said my dad was a product of Vietnam, he brought some things back with him, some issues back with him. He was a functional individual who was on substance.
Oh,
yeah, he drank a lot, and he was on substances, different substances, and things like that. As children, you don't know. All you see is your parents go to work. But we wondered, as I got older, well, why did we live so poorly? And they both had decent jobs, right? But what came out in the end was, my dad was pretty much smoking up his paychecks.
Oh, wow.
And he told me this personally. And we had a long face-to-face talk. And so my mom was holding us down, with what she could do.
Wow.
And so growing up was challenging. And then especially you move to an area where you have people that have, and you're wondering why you don't.
Right.
And I remember I've only gotten one whooping, what we called it, by my mom. And it was one time she bought some clothes for school. We were getting ready to start school, and I was, I guess I criticized her. And I said, why do we keep having these clothes, these no-name clothes, no brand name, so forth. And she got really upset. And I really didn't know why she she started hitting me until when I was older, and I understood that she was doing the best she could do. Right?
Yeah.
So we moved to a certain area. We moved to Grand Prairie. I met quite a few people. I was one of those kids that was very popular in high school. I played sports. I was an athlete.
Okay.
And your dialect changes, right? You come from one area.
Yeah. We just talked about it. What was it called?
Code switch.
Code switching. We did. I just learned that word today. Did you know it?
No, I did not.
We just learned it. I'm going to ask you about it, but tell me about the dialect. It's like, I totally get you. Like, I totally understand what you're saying. Right. Like, you mean like that?
Well, it was more of, I spoke, when I was in my urban environment, I spoke the way we speak to one another.
Like
urban slang, maybe not very good subject verb agreements.
Yeah.
And then I moved to this area where I'm around, majority white people, and you're just learning proper English.
You're like, is your mom picking you up today?
Yeah. And then I would be criticized when I would go back to, cousins or friends in the urban areas, like, you talk white.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's talk white?
Oh.
And I'm like, what do you mean I talk white? And really, they wanted to say you talk proper.
Yeah.
But they
you
called
think
it
you're
talking
better.
white.
Yeah. They would say to us, do you think you're better?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, whatever, So when I left, when I left high school and went to college, then you're leaving this predominantly white area, and I went to a predominantly black.
You went to HBCU. On top of it, you went to Prairie View.
Yeah. So,
do you like hello again?
Yeah, which is, that's a whole story in itself.
Yes.
And when I went to Prairie View, it was more of, it was a culture shock. Right? Because I dressed like I dressed in high school, which wasn't like how urban kids dress, right? They were like, this guy dresses funny, he talks funny. But, it was a group of people that accepted me. These people were from Chicago. And Chicago people talk, pretty proper. So we were all, and that's who I started hanging out initially at Prairie View. In Prairie View, I think I've always been like an entrepreneur at heart because, I started mowing grass at the age of probably 10 to make some money. I started washing cars in the neighborhood to make some money.
Wow.
I started, McDonald's was my first job, me and my brother, but again, we saw our parents work all the time.
You worked at McDonald's? I worked at Burger King and Wendy's.
I worked at several places, believe me. The Naturalizer, I was, working with women coming in with sweaty feet, pulling these shoes off their feet with swole. You got to tell them, oh, that looks great. Those shoes look great, but to make a sale. But I had several jobs before I went to college. But,
that's hilarious. I'm so sorry.
I met some really good people in college that helped shape me. I also found myself being lost on who I was as a black man. And the guys that I met that were from Chicago, they were all part of the Nation of Islam.
Oh, okay.
So I started going to the Mosque 45. Mosque 45. I ended up joining the Nation of Islam. And I think I did it more to find out who I was as a black male. And they really teach you about who you are as a black male. there was a commitment level that I really couldn't commit to because I was at Prairie View and Miles 45 was in Houston, downtown Houston. So that commute, I didn't have, cars was barely running and so forth. So I couldn't continue to do that. I respect them. Even though I was born into Christianity. I went to church with my grandmother. I didn't really go. My parents, they didn't really go to church at that time. But we used to go with my mom, my grandmother, and my grandfather. And
that's exactly what I was going to ask you. So, how did did you go to church growing up? And so
whenever we went over there, and sometimes we spent the summers over there and so forth. But we were younger,
right?
I know when I was in high school, I had a friend who was a Buddhist. I went to one of these Buddhist temples with him. So I consider me trying to learn about all the religions.
Yeah.
Even though I know I'm a Christian.
Yes.
And even when I left the nation, I was still looking for a Christian church to go to. But I was more judgmental.
Right.
Because there were pastors that would put down other denominations, other religions. And I wasn't looking for that type of pastor. I was just looking for someone who I felt was open to all, didn't have to put someone else down to build them up like a lot do. And then we found this church called Church Without Walls and Ralph West and
is that's here?
No, that's actually in Houston.
Oh, in Houston. I just know about it, but I probably know about Church Without Walls because of doing law school in Houston.
Oh, probably so. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm like, why do I know that?
And that's where I met my wife. So
okay.
Yeah, my second I was married twice, so I met my current wife.
Ooh, you going quick? Quick. Okay, so let me tell you. First, I want to say I'm so sorry for what happened. I didn't want to skirt over that issue, and that happened to you. It should never happen. But we just all have to do a better job at protecting the children. But you'll never know. It could be anything where that could come. And I thank you for being transparent and open about that. But you have just soared right past that. It seems it just kept on going. And what made you make a decision to go to Prairie View?
Actually, I went to my first was going to Texas A&M because I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Oh, okay.
Right, and then I went to one of the summer courses, and they kind of tell you what it's going to take to become a vet. So after I think it was going to where I wanted to be, it was going to take about 8 to 9 years. And I'm like, I'm the first to go in my immediate family. So that's going to be quite a bit of time. So I switched over to engineering. Because I like math as well. But, and so when I transferred to engineering, I ended up going to Prairie View. And because my aunt who's no longer with us, she told me about Prairie View.
Okay.
And so I went to Prairie View based on what she was telling me about it. And I think it was the best decision I could have ever made.
Wow. And so what year was it? What year were you in when you decided to try out the whole Islam? What year were you in college?
That was my sophomore year. And when I met these guys and when I started going, I met the guys my freshman year, but I started going my sophomore year.
Okay.
And I went there probably for a solid 2 years.
I know my family's so crazy. My grandfather was they did the whole Jehovah Witness thing. And so we actually were doing like Watchtower and wakes and like going door to door and all that stuff. And then because I guess there were 7 girls, 1 boy, they didn't like it. So they all went to like Islam. And I know there's like under Elijah Muhammad, and then there's like the Prophet Muhammad. But which one were you like, more the Farrakhan or more Farrakhan? Okay, more the Farrakhan. Yeah,
Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam.
The Nation of Islam. So that's what I was getting at. And so they went down there that round and they kind of changed their names and did all that. And so yes, it comes. And they, of course, they went to the masjid and so this is so interesting because I never knew that about you. So and so what did that do for like your dating life? Were you allowed to date in Islam, or how does that work? I don't remember.
You can date. It's that didn't change anything. And I really wasn't per se dating at that time. I was pretty wild in college.
You were pretty wild, because I mean, you did become an alpha, so we're gonna get to that. Okay, because you did become an alpha, and back then you actually had to do something to get into fraternities, right? Yeah,
but this was even before that. I was pretty wild, and
not my favorite.
Yeah. But like I said, I was kind of an entrepreneur at heart. So we created several businesses, me and some friends that I met in college. One was, most of them were associated with CHIP. And CHIP was combating hazards and poverty. It was the acronym, combating hazards and poverty. And basically what we were doing there was trying to educate the youth. We were going down, feeding, the disenfranchised in these, even homeless people underneath bridges, and we would take clothes to them, take food to them.
And this is in your college?
This is while we were in college. Me and a couple of guys did this. And
so did you do it as a nonprofit, or you just kind of formed this?
Yeah, we formed this group, and we started doing it, and we just started, and we did that. We did that all the way until after college.
So you just always had a heart for giving.
I did.
Wow.
But then, part of me, I was a hustler. Again, the hustle part came from not having and being around people that had and wanting. And, some things I did that, it made me who I am. I'm not going to say I'm not proud of it, but it made me who I am.
Yeah.
I consider myself pretty much a complex person, but, we had a computer, we sold computer equipment. We had Rottweilers, we bred Rottweilers all under the CHIP name. And, we even had a exotic male dancing group back in college. Called Chip, and we were called the Chocolate Chips back then, and it was 6 of us, and it was a way to make money, and it was pretty wild time. It was a pretty wild time.
Oh, you made me laugh. Chocolate Chips.
That's actually how I met my first wife. Because I know my current wife wouldn't have.
She wouldn't have let you be a chocolate chip.
We wouldn't have. We would have been totally opposite. That wouldn't happen. But like I said, but that was back in the day, and but we did, like I said, anything we could think of to make some revenue. we made some revenue.
Listen. The thing is I'm over here dying, but I mean, I know what it is to grow up in the hood, because I literally did my little Burger King and my little bids and did my little tricks at Kmart and stuff like that. To try to figure out how to make a little money, a little change, because I was making $3.35 an hour back then, and then it got a little raise.
Minimum wage.
That's something. That's crazy. What the minimum wage was. So I mean, just imagine doing that, and then so I know exactly what you mean. And so I did little tricks, tricks myself. It's like, tricks for kids. I did little tricks myself, I have to tell you. Yeah. But I love that you shared that story. So that basically means that you've just always been on your grind. Like always been on your grind. Yeah. So you got married while you were in college the first time?
The first time I got married my junior year.
Wow.
In college.
That was like
and that was for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
We both basically said that hindsight, we were just too young. Wasn't ready. Too young.
It sounds like it was too young. Yeah. And so then you did 4 years. Like you did what degree did you did the engineering?
Electrical engineering degree, and it actually ended up been about 4.5 years because I was trying to be a career college student. I'll be honest, I partied hard, really hard. And
where's Prairie View at?
Prairie View is between Waller and Hempstead, which is near Houston.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I know where Waller is.
Southwest of Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, actually Overstreet, I think he was in Waller County and he just passed away. But when I went to Texas Southern, I just knew about that whole Waller area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't, but I couldn't like place it in my mind. Mm-hmm. Wow. So they had like partying and stuff going on, or y'all had to go to Houston?
You have to think about, you're out in the sticks. It's nothing around that area, right? You're just out in the sticks. No, you're far away from a major city. So that's all you did. You didn't have anything else to do with party, and we partied hard, really hard.
Sounds like it. So you went ahead. So did you start out as electrical engineer or
at Prairie View? I started out as electrical engineer.
Oh, okay. But veterinary was what you thought about first when you were at A&M.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And, I never drifted from that. I finished. I probably should have finished in 4, but again, I paid for my own schooling.
Oh wow!
I initially got a student
message.
I initially got a student loan, but my parents needed my payment for the next semester, overpayment. So I gave them that money, and they said they would get it back to me, and they never did. So I slept out of my car for about a year. And then, I would go to some friends in the dorm. They let me use their shower, but I slept in the car for the most time. And it was just, again, part of it. What I didn't want to do is come back home. Because I already knew if I came back home, I'd get a job and not go back to school.
Wow.
And mom was like, well, just come home. And, once you save some money, you can go back to school. And I said, no, Mom, I'm going to stay down here and
party
make
like a rock star.
Make a way.
And
through all the hustling and, and partying and just life, life. I made it through. I remember I was walking in the engineering building and one of the counselors said, Vernell, I was like, yeah. She says, you only need like 18 hours to graduate. I was like, really? So I just took all 18 hours.
That's how I used to rock it.
But not an electrical engineer.
And finished my program.
So this is so crazy because that's not an easy program to get through.
No.
So you managed to party and do your work.
Right. Right.
So that's the message here. That's the key fact.
Yeah.
Partied and did your work because it can be done. You can do both, right?
You can do both.
And then so when did you pledge? Like how did that whole thing? Because I didn't have traditional college, so I'm not. Like I'm not. All of my friends are like everything, and I'm the only one who's like nothing. No sorority.
I would say because of some of the activities that I was doing in undergrad, some people didn't like it within the fraternity, so I ended up pledging or joining Alpha Alpha afterwards.
Okay.
So. It was kind of complicated.
Okay.
It was kind of complicated, but it was still in my heart. I was, it was positive people I were around. A couple of my best friends are alphas, and then it was some really positive people I met on campus. And it's something that I never looked at any other organization other than Alpha, and so I was going to do it regardless.
And I mean, now you're like a lifetime.
Yeah, I'm a life member.
Yeah.
I do a lot with the Brotherhood, and we do service events. We always are giving back, and we're about helping people and servicing people. So
yeah, I didn't even know much about it until that new Pearls of Ivy or something movie came out on Amazon recently.
For the AK?
Yeah. And then I call your wife up and I'm like, girl, why didn't you tell me all this about the sorority? And she's like,
I asked you if you wanted to, and I said, when? I don't remember you telling me anything about that. And she was like, oh, Alisha, I told you about it. And she's like, oh, so it's just so funny because I'm like, well, I didn't know. I knew that they existed, but I don't think have until that movie came out understand like the whole sisterhood and the community and the service and it's just amazing to belong to those organizations.
Right, it's 9, what they call the Divine 9. There's 5 fraternities and 4 sororities.
Okay.
Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is the first, founded in 1906, and then AKAs were founded, and Alpha Kappa Alpha was founded in 1908. And then you have
0608.
Right. And you have the Omegas, the Kappas, the Iotas on the fraternity side, and you have the Deltas, Zeta Phi Beta, and Sigma Gamma Rho.
Yeah, so they said, because like when I was watching the whole Usher like Super Bowl thing, they were like, oh, they brought out the Divine 9, and I was like, where? Like I couldn't see it. Like
so Usher,
people could see.
He had the guys that came out there with the canes, they're Kappas.
Okay, because the Kappas do the canes. I saw that at HBCU. That's the one thing, but I didn't go to graduate school, so they're
really depending on what campus, because Kappas do the cane, the Sigmas do the cane, and some Alphas do the cane, depending on what campus you're on. Yeah, but Kappas are known for using their canes,
So they said they brought out the Divine 9. So he brought the guys out with the cane, and then who else did?
I didn't even see any other than the Kappas that were up there.
Okay, I couldn't tell. I just looked at it. I was like, where? I was like, well, I guess you got to be in it, You know it if you see it. So Prairie View, you did undergrad. Did you only do undergrad, or did you do graduate school as well?
No, I only did undergrad.
Really?
Yeah.
In your today?
I didn't want to do anything more than undergrad. Engineering is hard enough. But I never had any aspirations to get a master's or a doctorate.
Wow. Man, to achieve the levels that you've achieved, man. I mean, this is message, y'all. This is good. This is good stuff. Yeah. So you graduate and you get a job right out of school?
Yeah, so I graduated with a 3.1 grade point average. The career, they had a place on campus called career placement, and that's where you would go for interns and so forth. Well, normally they want you to have a 3.5 at an HBCU.
Yes.
And most corporations coming in are looking for the higher GPAs from an HBCU.
Something.
Yeah.
Same with law school.
So, but I was able to get an intern with a recommendation from a friend, and it was more in the telecom space, which really helped me to get a job in corporate America once I graduated. So I didn't go through the career placement center, remember? So I was mailing out my resume to hundreds of organizations, businesses, and
for electrical engineering position. Okay,
and then finally Toshiba responded, and I went in and interviewed, and I knew if I had an opportunity to be in front of someone, I would sell myself, and I did. And
yes, chocolate chip,
right?
I'm just kidding.
And so when I got on with Toshiba, I moved up fairly quickly through Toshiba, through their ranks, and I became a senior guy. And then I was picked up by a headhunter for another company out of West Kingston, Rhode Island. So I'm in Houston at Toshiba, and then a headhunter from West Kingston, Rhode Island picked me up for a company out there. The thing was, when all I said is I just want to make as much as my parents, or more, just a little bit more than my parents. My mom was probably making 30-something thousand. My dad was close to the same thing. When I graduated from college, I was making $36,000 at Toshiba. And I was like, I'm content. I'm all right. And I said, all I've seen was my grandfather work, 20 plus years, 30 years. I saw my dad work almost 30 years, et cetera. My mom, I said, that's what I want to do, because that paradigm shift where the younger generation now, where they may work 1 or 2 years and move on to the next company, and companies are no longer loyal to the employees. Employees aren't loyal to the company.
Yep.
It's a huge paradigm shift, right? So when I started, like, I was fine with Toshiba, and then all of a sudden this other company, APC, came and headhunter, and they were interested in me, and it went from, I think I was at 48,000 when I left Toshiba, and it jumped to 6 figures, just like overnight, right? Overnight, and so
this is like at what age?
This is at 30.
Oh, that's amazing!
30,
yeah,
right?
you're killing it.
Is when I started with APC, and so I worked with APC for 24 years. So I did 5 years Toshiba, 24 years at APC, and that's when I retired.
Wow!
And in between all of that, that dash between all that, it was a really interesting experience, right? Because first of all, you're getting to travel places, and for me growing up, like I said, between this urban life and then with this with the Grand Prairie lifestyle, it's still, you didn't see much. Then you got to travel all around the country. You were exposed to all types of cultures.
So that's how you became, don't you have like the highest status ever for like the airlines? Like, what is that status? I'm like, every time
platinum,
you're like, I'm like, you got the highest
platinum
status. I mean, because of your travels with work.
Well, absolutely.
So when you were with Toshiba, was it just, were you doing the same traveling?
Not as much traveling as I was when I was with APC.
Wow.
Because at Toshiba, I was an application engineer, and then, became a senior application engineer. You travel some, but not as much as being in sales.
What?
So when I was with APC, now Schneider Electric, they were acquired by Schneider Electric. It was more on the sales side. So you have to be in front of customers. And I started off on the government space and the DoD space. And then I moved to the enterprise space, which are more Fortune type clients, Fortune 500, 400, 300.
Wow.
And, both of those were, totally different cultures. But you're still trying to achieve the same goal. They give you a number. So you have a number you have to hit, and you want to try to hit that number or exceed that number. So
inside sales, outside sales?
Outside, all outside
all
sales.
All outside sales?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, a number might be on the government or DoD side, it might be 6 million, 7 million. And then an enterprise, it might be 20 million, 30 million, 50 million. So, that's all selling, certain products and stuff.
So that is so interesting. So did you have any mentors like during this whole time? Because I mean, you literally did 5 years at one company. By the time you was making 30 something, left with 48, but ended making 48, jumped to over 6 figures with this new company. And basically was doing a totally different type of job. Like now you're in sales, which is like America's, it's America's business, right? And what is the term that they say about it? The it's one of the best businesses to be in is sales.
Well, sales is normally where you're going to make the money, and it's more risk because if you're not meeting your numbers, if you're not selling, then, a lot of times you're paid only commission.
Right.
Commission off what you sell, right? I was kind of a base plus commission because I'm in sales, but I'm on the engineering side, right? So I'm more of the technical guy, the guy that comes in, really the one the customers want to talk to.
Right.
Because they think, sales guys got hidden agendas, but the engineer is the guy that's going to tell us the truth, right? So I was kind of that guy. I was the one that kind of wowed the customer. Okay, yeah, we believe him.
They believe you.
Him, yeah.
Yeah.
So, And
that earned you, like, I mean, I'm just in awe, and it's one of the reasons that I wanted to because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and so to see you play the corporate, I don't want to call it the corporate game, but it literally is something to it, because
it really is.
I don't know. I'm just like, where did you get the knowledge or the wherewithal to figure out how to do that?
Well, so the first thing was, again, remember I told you when we moved from this total urban environment to this mostly white environment, learning that culture really helped me understand them and understand, because corporate America is heavily dominated white males.
Yes.
It was more back then, but it's still heavily dominant white males. So again, you have to learn how to hold conversations, talk. If if comments are made, they're going to talk about politics. They may talk about some guys being guys type things and say some things. And no matter how you feel, you kind of got to hold it close to the vest and, continue just to keep the conversation going by whatever they're saying. Right. So you wear a lot of hats. And I guess that was my issue. I've worn so many hats for the past 30 plus years.
Right.
Because you have a hat when you're at home, you have a hat when you go visit this customer, when you're in the office, etc. You always have a hat. And
whether it's like visible on your head or not, you got to understand where you're at and put those hats on.
And being a black male in corporate America is not easy whatsoever, right? Because first of all, you can't be substandard. You can't be average.
Right.
You have to always be above average, right? And I've been, so some of the things I did, especially at Toshiba, is I trained people on product and how the product works, how to service the product, etc. And, I was extremely good at what I did, and I made sure I was extremely good at what I did. But I've been in classes where in East Texas, where it's nothing but, pretty much heavy rednecks that said, what is this going to teach me?
No.
I heard him say it in the background. Yeah,
right? That's what you mean, that thing. And
right. So you could either, get upset, walk out, say, I'm not going to do this, or you could do your job, and handle it afterwards, right? And that's what I did, because I wasn't, it wasn't the first time I've heard the word from someone that didn't look like me.
Right.
Right. So especially in when you move to Grand Prairie, you have quite a bit of it. You heard quite a bit of it all the time. And so it kind of prepared me to deal with the things I've seen in corporate America.
So, I mean, this is just this is terrific. I'm into it, but I've been into everything because this has just been a fantastic day. But this is just a lot more information. This is a lot because I haven't taken the corporate route. What I can say about me and corporate is when I have gone inside, I know enough to know how to excel or to move or for someone to promote me to something else. Right. If I go in and I'm basic, I'm going to end up being the team leader. Right. Or I'm going to end up like when I did go in for the short stints when I wasn't doing entrepreneur, I always figured out how to, to get to that next level. But I never got to the money that you got. I mean, you got to the bag, baby.
I did meet some guys who helped me take, I had a pension and 401k at Toshiba, but you only get vested at 5 years, and I just barely got invested. Okay. But when I went to APC, I had some guys that helped me, help me place my my options in my 401k. So it really helped me, and they kind of told me you should probably max out your 401k or put this percentage of your 401k. And that really helped me grow my 401k. And 401k is basically, I look at it as a savings plan for you. Right.
Well, if you don't do a 401k, nobody's doing the pension. Right. There's no pensions anymore, right? Did you have a pension?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Not
you
anymore.
Saved it. Yeah.
Right. And so, from that perspective, I had someone kind of walk me through that part of how to take that and select my options, because you normally would move it every so often, right? Because something may not be growing or something, etc.
Right.
So that did very well for me throughout those 24 years at Schneider. But I also had started my own company.
Okay. I want to go back for a second just before I go to so you remarried at some point. You were married for 5 years, and then where were you in your career at that point when you remarried? And I'm a double whammy it. And do you think marriage had any effect on how you operated within that corporate structure?
So, I got married. Like I told you, I got married my junior year in college. And then about my third year with Toshiba is when we divorced. And my last year with Toshiba, my fifth year, is at the very end is when I remarried. So when I left Toshiba and started at APC is when I remarried.
Okay.
And when I remarried, I was in Houston. And the job was in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
I worked from my home.
Okay.
So I go from working in a cubicle environment to working into a home office.
Okay.
And I worked from
back
my home
then,
office.
It didn't even have to be COVID.
Then,
wow.
Right?
Okay.
And so we moved back. We moved to Dallas. We got married, moved to Dallas, and then we moved out to where we live currently.
Wow. So, because if I take you guys met in Houston originally.
We met in Houston at the Church Without Walls.
Okay.
Yeah, that was funny because we were in new orientation class. Oh. And I was in the back, she was in the front, and there was a lot of people in there. And I just saw this lady kept giving the teacher a hard time, questioning him about everything he said. And I kind of looked around and I was like, I need to say something to her. I don't know what put it on. I said, I know it was God put it on my spirit.
Yeah.
So I spoke to her and, we spoke. I introduced myself and that was pretty much it. And then I thought about it. I said, you know what? I need to get her number. And so I chased her down and finally got her number, and that was it.
And then that was it. Yeah. And then how many years you got now as a marriage?
Going on 24 years now.
Okay, so literally you got married right before you started this new job. Yes. And I mean, so she just came. It was like all the way. Absolutely. That was good all the way up because your trajectory was going this way, and she's a phenomenal woman. That's
she really is.
Yes. Yep. And so my question, was, do you think that the marriage, being married, being in that space helped keep you focused? Did you think it had anything to do, or you were just going to do that anyway?
I'm going to do that anyway. I'm very OCD, so I probably was going to do that anyway.
Yes. I forgot you vacuum all the time.
I do, vacuum, clean, etc. And it's just it's just me. But I'm, like I said, both of my parents, I always seen them work. So that's, I have a very strong work ethics. And at then I wasn't really chasing the bag. Right. When I left Toshiba to go into a different industry with APC. But it came along with it, and it started growing and growing and growing, right? And so then, the dreams I had back when I was younger, I say God dreams bigger dreams than we do. Because He kept opening up doors to say, hey, do this. And one was starting my own business. And like I said, I started at the same time pretty much. I started at corporate.
Oh, wow.
APC.
Okay.
And my business was down here, and APC was like way up here, right? And
income-wise, you mean?
Income-wise. But slowly, this business took off, right? Where this got, I'd say in corporate America, there's a glass ceiling. You can only go so far.
Right.
But my own business kept growing and growing and growing.
Wow.
Right. And,
So you managed to stay in corporate America, kicking butt. I mean, to the level of President's Club.
Yes.
What happens in the President's Club?
So the President's Club, they take the top performers throughout the company. And again, this is like the top performers based on whatever your number is,
your production.
Like on sales. This may be the top inside person, the top whatever in different groups of the company. And they send you all, like we went to Costa Rica.
Okay.
And they send you all to Costa Rica and they kind of roll out the red carpet and so forth. And it's a great achievement. I think I probably should have went more times than that, but
right.
Whatever. It was still a data boy to me. A data boy. Thank you for what you've done for my company. That's the way I looked at it.
Data boy?
Yeah, data boy. There you go. And that's fine.
How many other Black people were in the company or on the level like were you?
I'm a sales engineer. It was just me for a long time.
Wow.
Amongst,
Did you have to learn to golf and like?
Well, I learned to golf at Toshiba when I was at Toshiba. And, that's just part of the sales side. You got to golf a little bit, the dinners and et cetera. There's whatever the customer wants to do, you kind of do it with the customer.
Because that's sales, huh?
Yeah, that's sales.
Yes.
That's right.
I love it.
It was a good journey. A lot learned. But go back to your mentorship. I never had a mentor to really guide me along. It was all trial and error. I didn't know anything about investing. I didn't know any of that until I met a guy in our neighborhood. So once I was married, the second time, we moved to a neighborhood. I met a guy who was a home builder. He built high-end homes named Steve Roberts.
Like your house.
Yeah.
Like high-end homes.
Higher-end homes. Right? And he was like, he was like, you need to take a little bit of your money and, there's a lot of homes are being built, subdivisions are being built. Put a little money into these subdivisions, like you might invest $5,000, and then once you get a return on that, take that and put it back into another division. He said you really want to get into real estate, and really he was kind of my mentor on what I should be doing with my finances. Okay. And I started with him. Then I met a guy who was the president of a bank. And this is a Black guy. The first guy is a white guy. The second guy is a Black guy. And he started helping me with what I should be doing with my, with the money, with my investments. He kind of looked at my whole portfolio and he was like, you have done very well for yourself. And, and I'm like, first of all, I was, compliment coming from him because he sees all types of people and deals with all types of people. And I was just making sure that for retirement, I was okay and my family would be okay. And he was like, no, you're doing better than most. And wow. So now all we're trying to do is help educate the youth. There's a lot of people that were like me or that still that were like me, that are like me when I was younger and didn't have a mentor. We teach our daughters about money, because we don't teach normally we don't teach our kids about money. No,
there's no money. Really, I mean, if you think about it, we're 50 years into just actually having we're still at the point where we're still giving back to our parents. Like, absolutely. So, it's a little bit different. And yes, we definitely have to teach our kids about money. And
that is, it's up to me. it's a long game. People want fast money. They want it yesterday, but it's a long game. And I didn't get to where I'm at today without, this time period that went by and me learning what I've learned for 29 years. I remember there's a friend of mine, his son asked me, he called me by my nickname, Lit. He says, Lit,
because you lit. Because
I want to get to where you are. I want to like that. I said, well, it requires this, this, and this. And he was like, well, I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of people don't want to work as hard.
And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, this just may not be for you, because it's going to require that. And this, like I said, it's not quick money. Right. To me, quick money doesn't last. Right. I was into the quick money thing when I was out there hustling. And I don't think quick money lasts. That's the way I look at it.
So when you were doing more than just maxing out your the 401k, you were putting a whole bunch, a lot more money. Does that mean that you kind of kept your lifestyle within a certain, just in a certain way? Because I know you love cars and you be having some fly rides,
right? But
your wife
I'm glad
didn't
you
even
said
want
that,
a car.
right? So because I grew up in poor, I mean, the first car I had was a 1965 Mustang that my dad. No, 1975 Mustang that my dad gave me. And it was kind of a fixer-upper. So, it taught me how to be more mechanically inclined working on cars because it had several problems, right? And I had that all through high school and through my first couple of years of college. And then my brother gave me a hand-me-down car he had, which, it just helped me get through college, right? Yeah. And that's the car I slept in. Wow. But I never had...
For a year.
I never had a vehicle I wanted until, I was probably in my 30s. I remember through my first marriage, I had bought a car and then we had a baby coming. So I traded in that car. Like a year later, got another car. So what happened is I was upside down, right? And I came so far upside down. When I really wanted to get a vehicle that I wanted, I couldn't, right? They were saying, well, your credit score is not this. It's not a certain thing. You're going to have to, So I said, you know what? I'm going to take that. And that was my motivation, right? So I got my credit score cleaned up. I paid a high interest rate for a vehicle that I didn't really want, but it satisfied the conditions we needed, having a child and all. And for 6 years, I went through paying like an enormous amount of money for that vehicle per month until it was paid off. And then my credit slowly started building, and now I have almost a perfect credit score. There's pretty much nothing I can't buy. Right. But it's important for these younger people to understand that your credit is one of the most important things you can have because you have a good credit score, you can have anything you want to have. Yes. Pretty much. Yes. Right.
And then you had a bunch of cash. I mean, cash.
And then you got, cash is king, right? Cash is king. You want different buckets, right? You want not to only just have cash, you want to have, which is considered liquid. Right. You want to have some real estate. You want to have some investments, these different buckets. And when one's not doing well, the other may be doing well to kind of balance itself out. Yes. Right. But these things I learned later in life, right? When I was able to meet some people that were willing to mentor me.
But you learned it to the point that you were able to put away enough money to retire in your early 50s.
Correct.
And coming out of corporate America with enough money to be able to live for however long you shall live in the bank. I mean, what in real estate and in cash, stocks, bonds. And that is just like a phenomenal achievement. And then to go even further to where you are now, I personally know because I helped you with the trademark for the mentorship program that you are doing for other for young males. And so I think your story brings so much value. The value that it brings is for those, everybody doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. Right. There are some people who are wanting to go the corporate track and have that job, and they need that knowledge. How do you make it? And so just sharing that information with the viewers who are going to watch this or listen to this on the podcast is just extraordinary. And that is one of the reasons that I wanted to have you, not just because you're a tremendous, I love macho men, like you exude masculinity. You love your wife. You love your girls. You have 2 girls. You've raised them well. You continue to give to them. You buy your girls and your wife. You buy your wife bags, and she doesn't even care about that stuff because she's just not like into money like that. But you've taught everybody in the crew how to take care of their wives and get their wives purses and things, so you've kind of just trailblazed and showed other men how to, treat their spouses. And that's just one of the things. Plus you're giving. I want to thank you for ever believing in me to do business with me, buying, spending your hard-earned millions of dollars with me to buy yourself a building. I really appreciate that. And I just think that you're a phenomenal guy. I thank you so much for coming on and spending this time. I think we could go on and on.
We really could.
I mean, I'm not ready to leave. But is there anything that you want to share with the camera before we go?
I do. So when I was 30, I hadn't went to the doctor since I was a child. I mean, a little child, 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
So at 30, I started working with APC and I went to the dentist. And the dentist said, you know what? We're not going to be able to treat you because your blood pressure is high. And, I was like, really? And it's not something I even thought about. And they were like, yeah. So they made me wait. And, I laid there for about an hour. And then finally, it went down. They did the procedure. I went back 3 months later. They said, we can't treat you. You need to see a doctor. Your blood pressure's high. So I went in to meet with the primary care physician. So he did a workup on me. He was like, yeah, you have high blood pressure. And, and I've always worked out. So I worked, I was like, well, I can beat that. I said, I can, I'll just work out a little harder, do a little more cardio, et cetera. And they were like, well, we need you to see a nephrologist because we believe you may have kidney issues. And I didn't know all that was foreign language to me, right? So
and this is at 30?
This is at 30. So I went and met a nephrologist and she was like, yeah, your creatinine level's at a 5 and it's way above where it should be. And it's not a matter of if, it's when you're going to have to go on dialysis. And I'm like, what? I knew my grandfather had been on dialysis. But I didn't know much about it. And then my mom had gotten on dialysis shortly after that diagnosis from me. Okay. And so I watched her go through it. And in my mind, I'm like, hey, I'm still working out, whatever. They want me to take these blood pressure meds. I didn't really do that like I should have. I was not doing the things they wanted me to change my eating habits. Didn't do any of that. Well, that level at my creatinine level continued to rise. And every time I would go see her, the number would be higher and higher. Wow. Until it got to a point where they said, well, now you have to go on dialysis because your kidneys aren't functioning.
So how many years from that the first initial diagnosis?
Probably 10 years later.
10 years.
10 years later.
I've seen you work out every day. I've only known you to work. Yeah, I've only known you to work out every day. And so you don't eat bad and yeah.
As Black men, we don't go to the doctor. And that's an issue, right? Because I found out, if I would have found out about my blood pressure when I was younger.
And paid more attention to it.
Attention to it, I probably would have prolonged this issue. Now, this is hereditary. My kidney issue and my hypertension, my high blood pressure is hereditary, but I could have controlled it better. And before I had to go on dialysis, I probably could have prolonged that.
So you ended up going on dialysis. How long have you been doing dialysis?
This is my 6th year I'm on dialysis.
Is it 6 years?
And in 2021, I did get a kidney. It was from a deceased individual, but the kidney was damaged. So they put it in, it never woke up. That's what the term they say. It never woke up. And when it doesn't wake up, you have to continue to go to dialysis. And so I have a kidney in me, which is what they consider a foreign object. So I take a lot of medication for it to stay in me and my body to, not kick it out. And so I still have it in me. It doesn't work. But I've been on dialysis again for 6 years. And initially I was depressed because I'm like, why me? Why me? And I probably stayed in the bed for about 2 weeks and didn't want to get out. And then something just hit me. Hey, you got a family you have to be here for and take care of. Get it together. And I just changed it just totally the next day, got up, started going back to the gym, got my mind right. And so now it's just a lifestyle change.
And we didn't even get to talk about your relationship with God through the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I'm glad you said that. I think that's what he used to get my attention. Because like I said, I was wilding. I was out there drinking heavily, all of this, right? And I think the issue with me having to go on dialysis and my hypertension really is what got my attention and made me slow down, focus, and, really focus on my life and living right. So
right now you still need a kidney.
Absolutely.
And so, so this is Kidney Awareness Month. And so my guest has actually shared something so personal. And I thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
We need to make kidney awareness. And so if there is anyone out there that has ever considered donating or getting tested to be a donor, please do contact your, how do they contact?
You can go online. There's sites for kidney donors. There's right now 93,000 people that are on the list, on the waiting list for kidney.
Wow.
Right. So the demand is much, much bigger than the supply. So if a person finds that in their heart that they want to help a person live longer or donate one of their kidneys, I would recommend them to go online, and there's different organizations that you can fill out an application. Not everyone will be able to donate. Like there's certain things you can't have, high blood pressure. There's certain criteria that you have to meet just at the very beginning.
Kind of see if it's a match.
Yeah, they have to get their blood type tested to see if that's a match. Because you want the best kidney for that individual, right?
Right.
To see, because you want to last.
Okay.
Kidneys can last, all types of time. Some only last a few months, some last 20 years.
Wow.
It just depends on the individual, how he takes care of the kidney, if his body doesn't reject the kidney, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just recently stopped drinking. Well, I guess last year sometime, mid last year. So I don't know. I'll get tested. That's the only reason I didn't want to give anybody a drunk kidney, nothing like that. But that's the only reason that I have not considered or just like done anything. But I do want to get tested and just to see. But the thing that is a struggle. We all have struggles, and so that just seems to be your pain. One of the pain points right now for you. What I find that is so interesting about this whole thing is that you were prepared. You're like prepared. Like you don't have to get up and go to work. You can get up nowadays because you did so well with your life coming out of corporate America and saving and living within your means. You managed to accumulate enough funds so that no matter what this looks like, you have the opportunity to be able to enjoy the time and spend this time with your family while you go through the process of trying to get that kidney.
Correct.
And you've taken on establishing a foundation to help others, even though you're dealing with a difficult time.
Right.
And that's why I have named you the King of Relentless. And you are just an amazing individual. And I thank you so much for coming and just sharing your journey with us and also sharing some of those personal things.
Sure, you're welcome.
Yes, I love you so much.
All right, love you too.
So I'm going to actually do it. But thank you so much for coming on the show. You are officially a Black Aristocrat King.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to subscribe right here, right now to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on all socials at Alisha Melvin ESQ and #Black Aristocrats. Thank you so much for joining us.